Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to show you what you can learn from this Jannik center practice point to help improve your tennis. Now, this video is courtesy of 12K GP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to their awesome channel. I've put their link in the description below. Now, first, let's watch this point, and then we'll diagram it. Now, this is really quite a simple point for you to copy and improve your own game. And here's the first idea. When you get pulled inside the baseline, go forward to the net. You can see this return of serve is quite short. So the return lands well inside the service line, and Jannik has to come forward inside the baseline. If you are inside the baseline, do not retreat and go back behind the baseline. Once you are inside the baseline, go forward toward the net. The amount of pressure that this puts on your opponent, it's a lot. And when you're going forward, your opponent will most likely do everything they can to avoid you. They'll lob up over your head. They'll hit the net. They actually try to avoid you. You won't actually have to hit many volleys going forward because your opponent will do everything to avoid you and the court. And you end up winning a lot of points just by default because they screw the shot up. So go forward when you get a short ball. Not even Federer wins more points than he loses at the baseline. So the difference in your level of play is going to come from going to the net more. That's really where the advantage comes from in tennis. So you've got to go forward to really get an advantage over your opponent. And you won't have to hit many volleys again because they're going to do everything they can to avoid you. And when they do that, you win the point. The next thing is when you're going forward, and I want you to watch Jannik's feet, I want you to watch him split step. So that move right there, look how his feet split apart. So he's running, he does a little jump off of his right foot, and then he splits his feet apart. Now let's look at the timing of the split step. You want to be in the air as your opponent hits, and you can see that his opponent just hit the ball right there, and look at Jannik, he's in the air. You want to be in the air as your opponent hits so that you're landing your split step after they hit. Why? It synchronizes your brain and your reaction time with when your feet hit the ground. And then you can move quickly in any direction. You can move back if they lob up over your head. You can move left, right, whatever. You can adjust to the ball. So you need to split step. You don't just want to barrel in because then if they do, let's say, hit the ball like down the line, it's going to be too difficult for you to change direction and get to that ball. So you need to split step when going forward, and you want to think as you're running, you want to be in the air as they hit and then land the split step after. Now notice where he is. He's slightly on the same side of the court as the opponent. That's bisecting the two shots, right? You want to be slightly on the same side of the court as your opponent when you're going forward. But notice he's not like way up close to the net. Don't think that you have to, after your approach shot, get all the way super close to the net because you won't split step when doing that. So it's okay to be slightly behind the service line or at the service line. Just make sure you split step and you can handle the shot your opponent hits. Now, let's look at this shot that his opponent hits. Now, he's playing someone very good, right? It's a practice partner at Indian Wells. So this is a high-level player. So I want you to notice how far back he is. So he's quite far back behind the baseline. And when you're that far behind the baseline, it is quite difficult to hit a passing shot, right? You're like Jannik right now has a lot of time to react to the shot, and he's going to be able to cut the ball off. It's hard to hit your target when you're so far back. So what he's actually going to do is go for a very defensive shot, but it's like an aggressive defensive shot. It's a shot at your opponent, at his opponent's feet. And this is something that I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to go for fewer passing shots and go for more just low balls down the center of the court. Get your opponent to make contact with the volley below net level. So here's, didn't draw that well. Here's net level. Obviously the ball is super low. So he was able to dip the ball to the feet. Watch his follow through, by the way. Look at the hitting partner's follow through up over his head. That upward swing puts a lot of spin on the ball, so the ball's got a lot of top spin, and the ball dips. So he increased the upward angle, which increased the downward pull on the ball, and the ball gets sucked down into the ground. And that's what he wanted. He wanted Jannik to have a low volley. So that's kind of the third idea here. First being when you step inside the court, go forward. The next idea is when you go forward, split step. Third idea is kind of from this player's perspective now. When your opponent comes in, try to dip it to their feet. Don't go for the pass. It's much easier to win the point when your opponent comes in if you just give them the ball and give them a low ball and let them screw it up. Now, here is where Jannik hits an absolutely spectacular shot, but you can learn to do this. A couple things. Jannik is below net level, but his opponent is far back behind the baseline. So because his opponent is far behind the baseline, it might be a good idea to hit this ball very softly, which he does, over the net and take advantage of the fact that his opponent would have to run a very far distance in order to get this ball. The next idea is his racket does not hit the ground. He doesn't chop down, but rather he holds the racket very still. And yes, the racket's going slightly down and puts a little bit of backspin, but he's really not chopping this ball and putting a tremendous amount of backspin on this ball. He's just deadening the ball with a loose hand. The racket's not moving, and the ball just barely pops off of his racket. The ball actually peaks on his side, and then as it's crossing the net, it's descending. It peaks on his side and it crosses the net as it descends, and then the ball lands very short and he wins the point. But what I really want you to learn is that his racket does not hit the ground, and we can tell that actually by the sound. We never hear his racket slam against the ground. Such a great touch volley that the ball barely goes over the net. So when you do have a low ball at your feet and your opponent is way behind the baseline, set your racket where the ball is going to be, and you can see he gets his racket where the ball is, and he doesn't chop down. He just, the ball kind of deflects his racket back a little bit, but he holds it very still, takes all the pace off the ball. Ball peaks on his side, and it descends as it crosses the net. And you can see actually, Jannik actually follows his ball just in case the opponent gets to it, because remember, you want to be on the same side of the opponent. So it's a nice little move. He follows that ball, realizes his opponent's not going to get it, and then he's done with the point. All right, let's watch this point 2 or 3 times in a row, and just look for what we talked about. When he steps inside the court, he goes forward, and then he split steps when he goes in. His opponent hits it to his feet, and he doesn't chop and hit the ground with his racket, but he deadens the ball and just dribbles it over the net. So it might seem like, oh, Ryan, I can't do this, but trust me, you can. You work on these ideas in your singles game, and there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.